Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. It is Sunday, Series Sunday, that day of the week when we talk all things one series and one series only for your listening pleasure and for our talking pleasure. Let's be completely honest. This is a fun one that I don't know necessarily that everyone watched, which is truly a shame.
Yeah.
Because I love this. In fact, this is one of the few that I started watching before you. And I never get credit where credit's due because, like, I very rarely am, like, an early adopter.
Right.
And this time, I was the early adopter.
Yeah.
It was me. And I was like, this is so cute. I was like, I love this.
This is a show that a lot of people were hyped about when it first came out. And here's the thing, or when it was first announced. So we're talking Ocean Likes Me. So here's the interesting thing. I think that everyone has had a journey with the Korean BLs, right? We started with Where Your Eyes Linger, which I really loved, but it had mixed reviews. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was because, like,
I didn't love Where Your Eyes Linger.
Right. When you go
I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like, ah.
Right. So if you didn't watch K-dramas before you got into BLs, which, like, we've talked about this, our journey was from, like,
which is not everyone's journey, but
my journey was to Asia as a girl from the South who had zero exposure to Asian culture prior to, like, my 30s. When I got into K-pop, I dove head first into Asian culture because I was fascinated. I've always loved pop culture in general in the States, Western pop culture. And so when I found this whole other culture of pop culture, I was fascinated and just really wanted to dive in. So from K-pop went to K-drama. From K-drama went to a lot of Chinese dramas, Japanese dramas, and then the Thai happened and my world changed.
I mean, so here's the thing. I watched K-dramas long before I ever watched BLs.
Right.
Still did not love Where Your Eyes Linger. It's not, that didn't have to do with, like, the K-drama of it all to me. I think that the casting was rough for Where Your Eyes Linger. Not in terms of the boys. The boys were, like, the guys were great.
You thought they were too old, didn't you?
No, that they were too old to play those characters.
Right.
And they were. I was right. I'm sorry, but I was right. We're talking about men in their 30s that look like they're in their 30s.
Well, no, they were in their 20s.
Boys in high school.
Because the funny thing about Han GiChan is that...
Well, no, the little friend boy. He's the one that took... Or the bully. He's the one that really took me out of things.
Oh, interesting.
Who plays the manager in To My Star.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this guy is 50 years old and I'm supposed to believe he's 15.
Well, you know what's funny is, like, Han GiChan is only 23. The guy that
that's what took me out of it, though, was watching this
friend.
Full-grown man. Because he really, like, leads the story when you first are introduced to that story.
Right.
So for me, it wasn't actually the K-drama of it all.
So a lot
of
people,
it was that, but
yeah. So a lot of people, it took some time for them to get into KBLs because they're so different, from the Thai and from the Taiwanese, and really any of the other ones.
Even most of them are so different from K-dramas, I would say. So even if you come into it liking K-dramas, if you don't watch the right ones, it's not gonna...
I wouldn't say the right ones because there's something for everybody.
If you don't watch the ones that are K-drama-y,
right,
is what I mean. Like, if you're coming into it and you're like, I like K-dramas, so I'm gonna like this. If you watch the ones that don't follow the K-drama formula, you're not gonna like it, right? Because, like, you're expecting a K-drama.
So it took people a while for them to get into the KBLs. I think really until Light on Me was the big audience draw into KBLs.
I loved Mr. Heart, and I saw so many people talking about Mr. Heart.
I did too.
But I will say, like, even for us on the podcast, we talk about this all the time. Our Korean BL series Sundays do so poorly. Like, if we look at the numbers, like, not just the YouTube numbers, which, like, everyone can see, but our listener numbers on the episodes on Apple and Spotify. The Korean BLs are just, like, when we talk about Korean BLs, it's just not as popular.
Unless
the exceptions being Light on Me and Semantic Air.
Which I feel like is representative of the conversation, right? Like, I didn't even know you had watched Mr. Heart until, like, I don't know.
I think I talked about it on a series Sunday. I was like, oh yeah, Mr. Heart, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, you watched Mr. Heart.
I know, because it's one of those things, especially I think maybe it's like because they're so small that you just watch them in a sitting and you're like, it's a thing I watched. And like
that wasn't my experience. I actually loved Mr. Heart, but I watched Mr. Heart at a point in my journey where I was like consuming so much that I was watching like show after show after show, like really, like right now I kind of like, I'm at the point where I watch stuff where it comes out because I've seen everything in the backlog, which feels so weird to say.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was very early in my BL watching career.
Yeah.
And so I think what happened with Mr. Heart is I'm pretty sure I watched it around the same time that I watched Until We Meet Again. And I say all the time that Until We Meet Again is such a masterpiece. It is in my top 5 BLs ever. I think I just was talking so heavily about Until We Meet Again that I just,
Interesting. Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of this before we kind of get more into the story. It just came out, ended this week. On Viki, 8 episodes. It's an easy watch.
Yeah, the episodes are somewhere between 13 and 17 minutes ish each, which is typical of a KBL.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, people were so excited that this was coming out because it stars Holland as Tommy, which is always encouraging when you see out gay actors playing in shows, just because of the history, even in the West, that we have around the conversation about out LGBTQ plus actors being cast for roles or being overlooked for roles that
represent them.
Yeah. And so it was exciting to hear that Holland was going to be in a show. And then you have Han GiChan, who plays Han Pada.
Ocean.
I love the fact that his name was Pada, because fun fact, I named my car Pada because it's blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was really excited to see Holland in a show because I've liked Holland as like a K-pop artist. Since before I even knew what BL was.
Right, same.
And so it was really cool for me because we talk about this a lot, that like our journey, and quite frankly, most people that we know. And again, this isn't true of everybody. There are
Robbie doesn't like K-pop.
True.
Yeah, fun fact.
And there are some people who were like old school, right? Like they liked BLs before it got popular, before the pandemic.
It's
and
the
like
same thing as like the people who go from like anime to BL.
That's another
manga to
BL is another very popular.
Everybody has their own journey.
But a lot, I would say like 90+% of the people I know. And that just has to do with my friend group. Transition to BLs, found BLs because they started in the world of K-pop. And so for me, it was like this super full circle thing of like, this was a K-pop artist that I listened to before BL versus like, for example, DKZ, did not listen to them before I watched.
Neither did anyone else.
And their album sales show that.
Yes.
Love that for him, by the way, though. Actually,
deserved.
And the songs are great. So like, no shade. Love it.
Like these actors, right? That's the other conversation that we have in BL is these actors who use BL to get into the industry.
And for example, like I just love, because I love K-pop so much, and like for 2 of our K-pop boys from our favorite group have been cast in BLs. One is a Chinese BL. He actually described it to a fan, and you've probably heard us use this phrase on the podcast: boys and boys love. And I love that. And so I remember being so excited. I was like, this is my boy. Like, this is my K-pop boy from pre-BL world. And now he's coming into like my BL world. And it made me so happy. And
peripherally, because he's Chinese.
Right. So it's a bromance. And then another from the same group was cast in a show that we don't know if it's going to be BL or not yet, but it is adapted from a BL novel. So we'll see what happens with it. But this was like a similar feeling to me, like not my old group, but it was like, oh, I liked Holland before all of this. So it was like really exciting. It was a full circle moment.
Yeah. Okay. Read the synopsis.
Ocean Likes Me is a healing food romance between Han Bada, a young entrepreneur who dreams of starting an udon restaurant with a beach in the background, but finds serving customers difficult. Bada then meets Tommy, a failed musician who returns to his hometown after wandering and has a new dream. Together, both of them step towards their dreams.
Beautiful.
I love it.
It's a simple. I giggled a lot when it said a healing food romance.
A healing food romance.
We're getting a lot of healing food romances.
Healing food romances.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't watched La Cuisine,
do it now. This is an interesting show for me because it took me a minute to get into it.
Really?
It did. Because I was reading some reviews on my drama list specifically, and they were talking about how like there's a little bit lacking in the plot development. Like the character development, you kind of assume and guess exactly what's going on, but it's like a light fun watch, and like it is like you get what you see, kind of like the synopsis. Like you don't really get told Tommy's story.
Correct.
You just don't kind of figure it out.
You figure it out. But again, to be like, okay, so I will say this is a very K-drama KBL. Like literally from that opening scene when Bada like drives up to the beach and he starts unpacking the car, I was like, this is a K-drama. Like this is a solid K-drama, which I love. Yeah. But I feel like that's pretty typical of K-dramas where you'll have this character that you don't really know their story. They just kind of show up and they clearly have like some sort of like trauma.
They're going through something.
They're like going through something. I mean, yeah, he's just going through something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, even though the girl was the worst, I did like her.
Yeah.
I did like her. She sucks, but like she's like a funny con man. Yeah. Like she sucks, and I don't love that she was trying to take advantage of Bada.
Right.
But also, like, I liked her.
She's that typical small town girl that, you know, plays the nosy character that is in everyone's business.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a fun little like sidekick.
Yeah, I will say I think one of my favorite scenes with her was when Tommy comes into the picture and he's decided that he's going to be, because again, he never, like, when I say he's decided he's going to be a partner, that's what's happening.
I feel like that feels very Holland too.
Yeah. So like when he's decided he's going to be a partner after that first day or whatever, and he like confronts her with the flyer of like how much the restaurant actually costs, and he's like, you're ripping him off, and he's like, we're going to talk about this and blah 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 blah, and he ends up like getting an even better deal for him. I actually love that scene because she's so just like, it's a really funny scene, and I think that Holland and this actress play really well off of each other, and I do really like that because you're right, like we don't get a lot out of Tommy,
right?
And so that scene I think really highlighted like, and I love comedy in a BL. I love when a BL has comedy, and that was some good comedy.
I mean, honestly, when Tommy shows up in that fur coat laying on a beach, like I think you know all you need to know.
Oh, when he gets hit by the car, you mean? Not laying on the beach.
Yeah.
When Bada hits him with his car, which is one of just like my favorite things ever, because again, if you're a fan, like it was so funny because it's worlds collide. It's a trope world colliding. Because like if you're a fan of K-dramas, you know getting hit by a car is like the penultimate K-drama trope, right?
Seriously.
So you have that, and then you have the BL trope of like he's hurt and you have to take care of him.
Right.
And so you have these two, and that's like the penultimate BL trope is like he's hurt and you have to take care of him, and B, you like owe him something now.
Right.
And so like I love the meshing of these two tropes together, because I was like, this is everything I love all in one place.
Also, I love that he's giving him mouth to mouth. And Tommy just like puts his hand on the back of his head. He doesn't overreact or push him away. He's like, no, there's a cute boy kissing me. Let's continue this.
My favorite thing about that is that I don't understand why he gave him mouth to mouth after being hit by a car. Like,
it's a BL.
I mean, I get that it's a BL, but like we all understand. You know, it would be funny. You know, it would be like a really fun episode. Hear me out.
Oh gosh.
What if we like make a list of all of the like crazy moments in BLs, like across all of the regions, where one boy is taking a care of another boy in his sickness, like, and we're like, okay, he gave him mouth to mouth after being hit by a car, or like, right, like all of these times that they're being taken care of, and we have somebody that actually knows, like an actual EMT or an actual like first responder,
boom,
or P. And we're like, okay, if you're ever in this situation, what do you actually do? Like, because I'm assuming it's don't give mouth to mouth for being hit by a car is my guess. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Well, you would do your ABCs first, which has changed.
Always
I think.
Be closing.
Oh my God. Which I think has changed, but it's airway, breathing, circulation. When you come up as a former lifeguard for 10 years, when you come up on a situation like an emergency situation, you ABC, but now it's changed. Like now it's a different acronym, but like you check to see if they're breathing, you check to see, like you check the surroundings, like you check to see if they have a pulse.
I know that because I guess not recently, it's been a few years now, but I guess it's been like 5 years, took like CPR class trainings for like heart health awareness month or whatever.
Right.
And I know you're not supposed to, like, mouth to mouth's not a thing anymore. Like you don't do that during CPR anymore.
You don't have to.
You're not supposed to. When the American Heart Association trained us, they were like, don't do this.
Probably as like Good Samaritans is what they call them. But if you're a professional rescuer, yes. Because I just retook the class as like someone who works in childcare. I have to retake, like I have to keep it constant. So I just retook it in October. And yeah, you don't have to, like, you start with compressions now.
Yeah, that's what they were like. That's the most important part.
And COVID times, I'm sure it's good now that like you don't have to. The point is to keep the blood flow,
right?
Like,
for brain
right?
Death.
Like they don't have to be breathing. They do need their like heart to keep the blood pumping.
For the brain death. Yeah, because my friend who's a nurse was telling me.
Who would think that you log into Let's Talk BL, tune into Let's Talk BL, and we'll give you some first aid tips.
Yeah, it has to do with preventing brain death, because that's the number one like complication after someone's like had a heart attack or something where they need CPR is that you didn't keep the blood pumping, and
the oxygen gets to the brain via the blood,
right? And then they have brain death, and that's what leads to like complications when recovering from
But yeah, they've changed up a lot of that stuff. So yes, it's really funny. This is clearly a trope. Do not take any medical advice from
from Han GiChan in Ocean Likes Me. Anyways,
I also love the fact that Han GiChan is now partnered with Holland, like him getting another partner, because his partner in Where Your Eyes Linger went and did like 3 or 4 other BLs who I really loved. But I really loved Han GiChan in this because he is so earnest in this and just like a sweet, like stoic, unexpected BL boy.
I will say I have 2 favorite moments from Han GiChan in the show. The first is when he takes making the spicy udon so seriously.
I know,
like he really takes that challenge, so he's like so serious. He practices the day before, like and then when Tommy says it's not spicy, he's like, he really is like upset. He's like, oh my, like he just takes that so seriously, and I love it. And the second is when he and Tommy have gotten in this little like tiff. Yeah. And Tommy doesn't come home that night because remember they're sharing the bed. Another BL trope.
He's so upset.
He's so upset in the morning when Tommy's
wandering the beach.
He's so upset, and I love that
into
moment.
The ocean.
I love that moment so much.
And then we get probably one of the best KBL kisses.
Yeah,
that kiss is amazing.
Up there with Semantic Air. If you liked the kissing in Semantic Air, like.
Especially since the kiss in Where Your Eyes Linger definitely left something to be desired. Well, it was the first KBL. They were taking tiny baby steps into BL world. So
I mean, also it made sense for the characters in Where Your Eyes Linger because they hadn't seen each other in years. You're not gonna like
when you wouldn't.
You're not gonna like.
Amazing. The other interesting thing about this show is the fact that they're full-grown adults,
right?
And the fact that you get an ex-boyfriend from Han GiChan. Like that's what I really loved. They actually kind of developed the world around these characters pretty well. Of like, you didn't get any of that. Oh, they're figuring out their sexuality. They're getting like, we're kind of moving towards that in BL where we've gotten past the whole, and we've talked about this a lot. We're getting past the whole, like, we don't know what our sexuality is. Like that still exists. Like it was in Heartstopper. It was in something else recently. But really what we've gotten to is we're okay and our friends are okay with our sexuality. Society is still not there. And so that's what was fun about this one is this ex-boyfriend. The ex-boyfriend was fascinating.
He also causes very classic K-drama trouble, which I love.
Yes. But him coming in and being like, I want you back. You deserve more. Like, you are better than this
beachfront restaurant.
Udon place by the beach. And just like, he was so interesting.
And when he goes to like the reporter.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, honestly, him walking into that newsroom and it's like nighttime and it's dark in the newsroom to like have a conversation with this reporter. I was like, this K-drama is ridiculous. It reminded me so much of the shenanigans that went on in She Was Pretty.
Yes. Yeah.
That I was like, which She Was Pretty is a classic case of picked the wrong man. This was not a classic case of pick the wrong man. No. This time we picked the right man. Yes.
But She Was Pretty is rough.
Yeah, She Was I mean, and you know it's rough if you're like, oh, you shouldn't have picked Park Seo-joon.
I know.
Like, that's so when you know true. It's rough. When you're like, you pick Park Seo-joon. I don't know about that.
Yeah. It's so true. But I love that Tommy brings him the udon. He's like, you got to taste the udon.
Yeah.
And he's like, it didn't travel perfectly, but I need you to taste the food. I love that we're getting these rude. Hold, please.
Our mics are fantastic. No one knows. Everyone's gonna be like, why did you pause? Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Everyone's gonna be like, why'd you pause? And you guys will never know.
And you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Except for I feel like Zach will bang and make all the noise possible. And you will know.
Well, only now because there you go. There it is. Uh-huh. There's an intruder. Intruder alert. Tommy brings him the udon.
Yeah, I
just gotta taste the food.
I love that we're getting these cooking things, like, because it's not just like
cooking the new university.
Yes, the new engineer.
Well, they're not engineers in the KBLs, but we do have lots of universities in KBLs.
Right.
So I feel like we're just replacing universities with kitchens.
I will say the setting of this show is really nice too.
Yeah, I mean the Bada.
We get a whole beach frolic show.
I mean, yeah, the whole show is a beach frolic. Yes.
We just have a city frolic in this one.
Yeah.
And they have really pretty scenes, like actually on the beach where they have like their moment.
Yes.
The moment where
the kiss on the kiss,
beach but then the moment that Tommy sings to Bada is just so sweet and so beautiful. Okay, so this is where I had a little like confusion / like I wish we had gotten more character development, because you go from they've had their resolution. He won the cooking competition. Their relationship has developed, and then suddenly now the story transitions to Tommy, right? Like he has been inspired by Bada's like journey, I guess, and then you just kind of have to assume that now he's pursuing his dream. Like you've gotten a little glimpse into it when they have that performance that they see, which has a little cameo from one of the boys of Behind Cut, which is very cute. Yeah. Which if you haven't watched Behind Cut, watch Behind Cut. Too.
So good.
It's so good. Maybe that's the other thing, is that some of these little KBLs get lost in the shuffle because they are so short. You're like, I'll get to it eventually.
Right. And then you just never really watch it.
And you never know what you're going to get from them, because some of them are like, you shouldn't waste the like 3 hours that you spend on them, because that's all they are. They're like, they usually get turned into movies. Which are like
it's usually less than 3 hours, honestly. Right. Like, I think I like counted up all the minutes that Ocean Likes Me would cost you, and I want to say like I did the math, and it was like less than 2 hours.
I wonder if this one will be turned into a movie.
I bet, and I bet we'll get extra scenes, and I bet that'll explain Tommy more, because my guess is they cut a lot of Tommy's stuff to really develop the cooking thing.
Oh, interesting. So you get that scene where he's like imagining himself on the stage. And then you cut to them having their like moment on the beach, and I guess he's like, "Oh, I should go pursue music now."
Right.
Like you see him writing the song once Pada has gone to the cooking competition, and then Pada buys the restaurant, and then they're like, "Never mind."
I wonder if I honestly, I got that same feeling, but when I was watching it, I more so was like, I bet a lot of this got cut for time. And it did make me wonder if the source material for this was a novel. If so, I bet Tommy's story is like book 2.
Oh, interesting.
Would be my guess. I don't know. If you know, tell me in the comments. I'm super curious to know. But like,
that is interesting.
It didn't really throw me because I was like, the whole point of this is Bada and his journey and like him inspiring Tommy. So I didn't really need all the rest of it. I was like, he's kind of like served that inspiration purpose. And like, it's kind of like how a lot of people are very upset about like the ending of like, for example, the Game Boys movie is like, well, but I need to know what happens next. And it's like, well, you get to decide what happens next. You know what I mean? Like the story that you're meant to see is the story you saw.
Right.
And so like, that's kind of how I felt about this, is that like, this actually wasn't about Tommy's story. It was about Bada's story. And like the not repercussions, but the effects that it had on Tommy, not so much like Tommy's story. At least that was the feeling I got from it. So I didn't feel weird about it. I just like this show so much. I mean, from the first episode, I was like, this is so cute. I love this so much. I just loved the show.
I also loved how soft Bada got when Tommy disappears. Every time he disappears.
Every time he runs off.
He disappeared, the second, and his little like hugs when he like reunites with him.
Every time. He's so upset. And also, if this is the kind of thing you're into, Holland with those little kids who just want some udon was very sweet. I will say I was highly concerned when I realized that the fermented soy sauce or whatever had broken. I was like, oh God. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a thing.
Although it's so sweet the way that they resolve it, where he's like, it wasn't really mine to begin with. Like he needed to make his own.
Yeah. But I was like, oh no. Very true. I was like, you had one job. And of course children become involved and it's problematic. Always.
I would be so interested for them to develop Tommy's story, to see what comes next for these.
Yeah, I would love a season 2 of this show for sure. And it like focuses on Tommy and his journey.
Cause like, does Bada stay in his little hole in the wall restaurant place, or does he like follow Tommy to the big city to help him pursue his like music dream?
No, I think he stays in the restaurant and Tommy comes like leaves on the weekends. You know what I mean?
He becomes like a superstar.
Yeah, but he always comes home to the beach. Like that's in my heart, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like Tommy gets like to have his privacy, right? He gets to be a superstar in the city, but he gets to like live his life and have his privacy. And I feel like the contention is like somebody sees him and he's like, and they're like, oh, Tommy, he's famous, and they see he has a boyfriend and it like comes out in the press and it's like a whole thing. Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
It'd be a great show, right?
I'd be interested in that story.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna write some Ocean Likes Me fanfic now.
Do it.
I used to write fanfic back in the day.
Here's the thing. That's how these BLs get made, which is so wild.
I used to write fanfic back in the day. I used to write Dream Street fanfic.
Oh,
and if anybody knows what Dream Street is, thank you.
I find that so interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I was privy to fanfic or knew what fanfic was until K-pop.
Oh, really? See, I also did not write One Direction fanfic, but I did. I had already transitioned away. Like, I didn't really read fanfic either by the time I liked One Direction, but I will say I did read the Larry fanfic, like the one. I also, just out of curiosity, that long ago, you remember, you were there for this, went on AO3. What was I looking for? I was looking for something.
I don't know.
It was real. I was looking for something really specific, and I ended up reading an Jimin fanfic.
Oh, I remember that.
I was looking for something else. Like, I wasn't actually looking for that. I was looking for something else.
What was it? Was it like
I don't remember what I was looking for.
But what was the plot point? Wasn't it something crazy where they like police officers or something?
Yes, one was not all of them. One of them was a police officer.
Was one a criminal?
Yeah, one was like a mafia guy. Yeah,
the mafia, yo.
Yeah, and then Chimin. I remember it was Chimin. I don't remember between Omen and Nun who was the police officer and who was like the mafia, but I do remember that Chimin was the little club boy that then like it was a throuple situation.
Oh my god. I do have a Mark.
Do you think You're My Sky fanfic exists?
please,
do you think it exists?
I don't want to know.
I am so curious now. I really want to know.
I have.
Do you think it exists as You're My Sky, or do you think it exists as like
I do have a Mark Kit Gen Y fanfic saved that I want to go back to. I don't love the like
because you don't like the storyline of Gen Y and you want to make a new one in your heart.
I don't like using like the real people as the characters. I like the idea of like the characters, like continuing the character story because that makes more sense. But I've talked about this before. I never got into singers and performers as like real people, if that makes sense. Like musical artists never interested me. Like they were the song, like they sing the songs, but
you were always like a fan of actors.
Yeah. I was more into like knowing about actors and who they were because they were portraying characters. And I feel like with musical artists, like I kind of what you see is what you get. Like they're singing a song, like the song kind of describes who they are. And so so the fanfic because is fanfic mostly written about musical artists, like. Origin?
I don't know if it's mostly, to be honest with you. I think that fanfic exists because actually, I think fanfic probably, and I'm just guessing. So again, if you know, please tell us in the comments. But my guess would be that fanfic actually started in relation to book characters, would be my guess. I don't know for sure. And I never read any book character fanfic, even though I did like... I got my start in fangirling via books.
Did you not
read via fiction?
Did you not read the Twilight fanfic?
No, I did not. The one that became 50 Shades? No. Because 50 Shades started as Twilight fanfic.
Oh, I don't think
you didn't know that?
No, wasn't the story that Edward's point of view, wasn't that kind of a fanfic? Didn't that kind of start as a fanfic? Or no?
Stephanie Meyer wrote that.
It was just early.
Yeah, she just wrote that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
No, I never read any, and I was like, in fact, like I was a big fan of the Hunger Games trilogy, like as books long before the movies existed.
Right.
I never read any like Katniss Peeta fanfic. I'm not like a Gale person. Oh, never liked Gale. Always was Team Peeta. But honestly, if I had to guess, I would guess fanfic actually got its start from like book characters, not necessarily where musicians.
Fanfic started, I'd be fascinated.
I would be fascinated to know about that too.
Do your research. Let us know. Interesting.
Also, if you know if You're My Sky fanfic exists.
No, please don't.
I'm so curious.
Especially if it's based on, and maybe I'd read Boom Jump fanfic.
Wait, would you read Boom Jump fanfic or San Ive fanfic?
Both and.
Oh, interesting.
But nobody else from that cast.
I feel like I wouldn't read them as people fanfic.
I read Boom Jump fanfic. Give me that throuple.
That's actually not who I would put Sia with out of that cast. We're not going to talk about who,
please.
But we've talked about this, and that's actually not who I would put Sia with if I was putting Sia with somebody else. But
I love how we made it one whole episode not mentioning You're My Sky, but here we are, back again.
Always on that agenda.
It wouldn't be Let's Talk BL season 2 if we didn't talk You're My Sky.
Facts.
Always on that agenda.
True.
Y'all, just you wait. This season of the podcast, we have big things in store.
This season or next season?
This season. To finish out the You're My Sky season. Not sponsored by World.
Not sponsored, but should be. No, I paid for my merch.
True.
My credit card lit on fire.
Speaking of merch, we have merch. Go shop.letstalkbl.com. Is it shop or Shopify?
Shop.
I'll get this eventually.
Shop.letstalkbl.com.
Oh, we're almost to a new month, y'all.
We are. Are we announcing? Should we, if you made it 37 minutes in, if you made it through us talking about Boom Jump fanfic, then
you are a loyal listener.
You get to know, although we don't have everything completely done yet. Maybe we give you like one sneak peek.
I mean, I feel like we've already said Nut and Karn.
And La Cuisine, you guys. Mick and Pop.
We're about to get on that You're My Sky
level
with La Cuisine.
First of all, the show's amazing. Second of all, when I tell you, okay, so some of our friends have already seen a preview of this interview because they had to. And the feedback we got was, this is the first time we've ever seen you guys get nervous and red. Both of us turned red in front of these boys.
Multiple times I was like, I need to hold it together. I need to hold it together.
I, in the middle of speaking to one of them, had to take a moment.
They're
so cute.
Truly the most button of buttons to ever button.
Mick is a button to rule all buttons. This boy is.
I'm going to find a way to get him Chick-fil-A. You'll find out.
You'll find out why.
But I need this boy to have his Chick-fil-A.
So you got to watch this episode, and you absolutely have to watch this show because it is soft, sugar-coated, fluffy sugar with classic BL tropes, and it's good.
The pacing is
excellent. And the acting is good. The friends are perfect.
The acting, y'all.
The acting.
These are brand new itty-bitty baby boys, and the acting is pretty great.
And it goes from like 0 to 100. You got to watch this show.
It's on Gaga, ooh la la.
And Mick and Pop are just, I mean, they're
Mick and
so precious. And they're the nicest guys.
They're so cool. And
they're
both
so nice and so funny. Both speak fluent English.
We were left unsupervised with them.
Which is probably why we had so much trouble.
Which if we didn't learn from Chris and Portia, we now know better why. Pop and Mick were precious.
Pop and Mick did the thing though.
Oh. Stay tuned.
And then we'll have one more thing in June to look forward to.
We also vibe with
Nut and Karn. Karn's a whole vibe, y'all.
Also, if you guys have any ideas of what you want to hear us talk about on regular episodes, let us know. It's been a minute since we've asked for listener suggestions. We usually do it at the end of a season, and we're curious what you guys want to hear us talk about.
Yeah.
We have lots of topics.
We have so many topics. We got a list.
But we're so curious what you guys want to hear us talk about because we still find it so hard to believe that people want to hear us talk about our opinions. And so when you guys DM us and tell us how much you love listening to the podcast, it's very nice and we don't understand it. But
it's very nice, but also very confusing.
Very sweet. And so, yeah, tell us what you want to hear us talk about.
Yes, and don't forget, you have until the end of May to enter the giveaway to win one of 3 live stream passes for Raikan Tapani Philippines, Raikan FanCon.
Yes.
So if you haven't entered that, go ahead and enter that. I will put the link in the description.
Awesome. This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.
See you next time.